Okay, next up is the oil pressure gauge. Looks like that's frozen over here. I'm gonna have to take this panel out right up through here and remove that to access it. I know there's some gears in there, so they need to be lubricated and get that mechanism working again. Okay, I removed the screws, and if you can look way down in there, you can see where the oil line comes into the gauge down there. Alright, so I got to remove some screws and then I'll have access to pull it out. Okay, I've taken the bezel off and now I can access the oil pressure gauge, and while I'm at it, I'm also take the clock out too and lubricate that and get that working again. Okay, I was able to get the gauge out. I'll take a look inside, lubricate that, and you can see there's a little gear, big gear that runs the little gear. So let me clean it all up and see if I can free it up. Okay, well, I got the gauge out. I wanted to confirm that there is actually oil coming through that line and it's not plugged. Well, I just ran it, and as you can see down there, there is. You can see a lot of debris down there. So looks like I just flushed out the line. Let me get that over here where you can see it. Yeah, so I'll run it some more, but yeah, you can see how just that debris in there may have messed up the gauge a little bit. So let's get that all cleaned up and lubricated, and I'll put this back. There we go. What I'm going to do too is put a little bit of degreaser down there to clear out that debris. Okay, I just put a little cotton swab in there. You can see some of the debris coming out of there. Just trying to clean her up carefully. Okay, just carefully. I'm not going all the way into that hole. I'm just trying to clean it out. Okay. Well, looks a lot better in there. All right. Now a couple drops here. This is very light oil. Okay. There we go. Soak in a little bit. I'm going to wipe off some of that residual. Okay, the mechanism is right in here that turns that big gear. So I'm just going to carefully move that back and forth a little bit. This is on that band there. Not too much. Okay, I'll have to wipe off that extra oil there. Okay, that's moving much better now. Okay, now to clean up. Okay, there's two screws that hold that clock in, right there and there. Okay, now with the clock out, I wanted to show you, first of all, what you have to do is to take this cover off, pull this tab back. There's a little dimple here. You got to pull that back with pliers. There's another one over here, another tab you pull back. And over here is another dimple. Once those are pulled back, you can carefully pull out the clock assembly. Now, a couple of things to look for. One of them is what was the problem with mine, and I'll show you here if I can get the camera to focus. But basically, I'm going to try to point to it here. There's a spring right here, attached here. It loops around way inside here. Keeps going around. I'm going to keep spinning here. You can see it way inside here. Keeps going. It's that black spring. Keep going. You can kind of see it right here. It attaches to this post right here. Mine was broke off right here. So that mechanism that the spring attaches to will actually help the second hand move, and as that moves, of course, it runs the whole mechanism. So what I did is I just bent that, made a new loop on here and reattached it, and that seems to work properly. Then number two, another thing is you get your meter out. I'm going to spin this around. Where's the best angle to get this? Here we go. Okay. Another thing is the coil here. This can burn out, and one way to test it is with your ohm meter. So get your ohm meter out, and what you can do is put the probes between here and here. This will give you a couple of ohms of resistance to measure all of this wire inside. So if there's no measurement between here, there's no resistance, no ohms, then if it's open, well then of course this is faulty and you're going to have to rewire it or replace it. So those are two tips I see that will help you service your clock. Okay, here's some additional information you might find useful. Also in here, I want to show you right through here is contact points. So we have the solenoid here. When that gets energized by these two contacts here, then this assembly here goes back over here and puts tension on that spring, that black spring in here. And then it runs for about a minute, and then this arm here slowly goes back and gets energized again, and the process starts all over again, comes down, and then the spring takes over and runs. So I'm going to show you that operation right now. Also, I wanted to show you that there are contacts right here from the solenoid to this point here, and I want to make sure that you know that you can sand these down a little bit to make sure that there's good contact between these two. If there isn't, the clock will not run. So what I've done here is I have a tiny piece of 600 grit paper right here, so I'm going to carefully stick it in there, right in between those contacts. I can get it in there. There we go. Sand this down a little bit and carefully Sand the other side. This particular clock has been sitting for a lot of years. So let's try it out. Supply power. Okay, here we go. I have the ground wire just tied to the metal frame here, and then we'll run the power over here so you can watch this contact right here. Okay, now you can see the mechanism in the background running and how the second hand here, I'll disconnect the power. You can see runs all by itself. There we go. So again, that spring is being activated and slowly bringing that contact back, that whole mechanism, and it starts all over again. So there you have it. Now you can repair yours. Okay, now that I have the dash apart, I thought I would clean it. Very dusty, again, 50 plus years of use. So I'm going to take this apart in the back here. I wanted to show you some things. This snaps off here. There's some other little pieces in here that I removed before. I'll clean these up and reinsert those. Then we have the plastic lenses here for the instruments here. Clean that nicely. Then also there's these little rubber rods here. I actually found one laying around on the floor, so one must have popped out while I took it apart. But anyway, I'll make sure that I glue these back in and make sure that they're in there. There's 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll get this all cleaned up, get all the dust and debris, and make it look like, well, get it new again, or newer. Okay, I've cleaned the parts, and now time to put these guys back in. Put a little adhesive on there so they can stay in place. Okay, got them all in there. I want to make sure they're good and snug. There we are. Next, we put the lens back in. Thing is, we got to put it in correctly. Then we put this back on. There we are. Show you the front while I hold it all together. Okay, clean. Again, I'm not going to restore this. I am just going to get it cleaned up. Leave that original 50-plus-year-old patina. All right. Okay, before I assemble, I wanted to double check. I connected the orange wire, and there we go. Clock's working perfect. Okay, there we go. Pressure gauge working good. Got that clock working as well. Look at that thing go. All right, we're in great shape. Awesome.